Thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to be talking about what's on your bucket list. Imagine that. Wow, what an interesting question. What's on your bucket list? Now, some of you are going, what's he talking about? What's this bucket list business? Well, there's an old phrase that says, before you die, you kick the bucket. So we create a bucket list. The bucket list are all the things that you want to do before you die. Now, some of the things you're actually going to do, some of the things you're just going to read about, some of the things you're just going to visit on YouTube. But I want to teach you a system that I use, that I've used for decades, that helps me get my brain where I need it to go, to be able to focus on the different things that need to be focused on. And when I talk about the bucket list, I'm also going to teach you about this little thing that I've been doing for decades called the mind map. Sometimes my daughter calls it starbursts and sunbursts. One daughter calls it the web. How do you move stuff around? Because one of the challenges you have is that you've got all these things that's in your head. You're just juggling all kinds of things at the same time. You're juggling all these different things, and it's very hard to focus in on the things that you need to be able to do. Now, a very famous guy here where I live started with nothing. Larry Miller was a car dealer. He had an incredible mind. He had a very rough childhood. He and his wife both had a very rough childhood. But he had the ability to focus on one thing intently for 15 minutes. That was his claim to fame. Hey, I can think of something, I can look at something, and I can just focus very intensely with all my energies for 15 minutes on it. And so what we have is we're juggling so much stuff that everything's yelling at us to go pay attention to this and pay attention to this. You know, advertising, web, kids crying, whatever it is. You have to be able to sit down and be able to focus on something. Now, one of the things is to spread things out so that you're not looking at everything at the same time. Now, I'm going to use the example of this mind mapping system that I've been using for my life. And it really helps calm you and focus you on what's most important, but also gets everything on paper. Because what I know is when I have an idea in my head, I've got to juggle it. I've got to keep it juggling in there. As I get older, I can't juggle as many things I used to. I used to be able to juggle 3 or 4 things at the same time, 5 things at the same time. Now, when I get an idea, I just write it down. Now I know that I don't have to focus on it any longer. I can think about something else, and I can focus on one of the other things that I do. So what I want to do is I want to show you this little system, but I'm going to use your bucket list as an example of what we're going to be talking about. So one of the questions I've got is that, you know, what's your why? Why are you doing all of this? Why are you working so hard? Why are you starting to invest? Why are you coming to class? Why are you here? Now, if you have a big enough why, you will figure out a how. Now, most people are just thinking, how do you do this? How do you do that? And there's no energy behind it because there's not a why. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing the things you're doing? And part of the reason that the things that I do is because of my health issues. When I was 34 years of age, I had a heart attack. And as they were wheeling me into that operating room, I wondered if I was coming back. And if I didn't come back, who's going to take care of these 2 special needs children of mine now? My children are now adult children. They still live with us, and they probably will the rest of their lives. But, you know, what kind of a mess would I have left my family, my wife, and my kids if I would have not been here? And that was a huge why for me. You know, why did this happen? But more importantly, what am I going to do about it? And they were my why. And I needed to be able to make enough money to be able to take care of these kids so that they'd always have what they needed. You know, when we first diagnosed Ryan with autism, you know, that was a long time ago. That was decades ago. And it really wasn't known what it was. We were living in San Diego, and my wife went to the doctor, and he says he'll grow out of it. And another doctor, he'll grow out of it. And then she went to a specialist, and this doctor gave her the first word of autism. And so it was the first time we'd ever heard of it. And there was no really programs at the time to be able to help these little kids. And the closest one I found was at UCLA. And I was going to have to quit my job, get another job, move to Los Angeles. And it was about $40,000 US at the time just for the tuition. Now, that was decades ago. It'd probably be $150,000. Plus I had to find a way to live. And I sat down with my friend Robert Allen told him what my problem was. And he says, Tom, go make enough money that you can put your child in whatever program you want and never regret it. Never regret spending the money on your children. And that's what happened. I went to work, and that's how I started creating multiple streams of income. And then over the years, we've become financially independent. My kids are taken care of. I don't have to worry about that. And now what's on my bucket list is to help other people. You know, all the things on my bucket list, I've pretty much accomplished everything on my bucket list. Now my goal is to help my kids accomplish what's on their bucket list and to help you accomplish what's on your bucket list. Zig Ziglar said it best. The only way you can get what you want out of life is to help other people get what they want out of life. So I want to show you this little system that we created about mind mapping and how, and I use this for businesses. I use it for investments. I use it for everything because it allows me to take subjects and move them onto a different page, but yet they're still connected. So my brain can focus in on the couple little things that I need them to focus on. But the first thing is I want you to figure out what's your why. Why are you doing all this? When you go to college or when you go to school, I want you to ask yourself, well, why am I here? Why am I taking this class? Well, am I taking it because I have to have it to graduate? Okay, but that's not a good enough why. Why am I taking this class and how am I going to get a return on my investment? Every time you're doing something, you should be saying, am I going to get a return on my investment? Of my investment of my time or my investment of my money? Because those are two huge things, you know. Am I going to get a return on this? So if I'm going to school and I'm taking basket weaving, am I going to get a return on my time or a return on my investment? Well, probably not. Then you need to get out of that class and go do things that you're going to do. The reason that so many people have so much student debt is that they're taking a lot of classes that they don't want to take, that they don't need to take. And frankly, as an employer, I'm going to look at your life experience. I don't really care if you graduated from a school. I want to know what you've done. Where have you been? I'd rather have life experience than I would some degree that doesn't mean anything. And so that's me on my soapbox a little bit. Anyway, so you got to figure out your why. And when you're doing things, am I going to get a return on my investment? So now we're going to get kind of creative. We're going to doodle. We're going to play. We're going to dream. We're going to mind map. This is what I call it. And again, you can call it, you know, sunbursts, starbursts, whatever you want to call it. But it starts with taking out a piece of paper. So I want everybody to grab a piece of paper right now, multiple pages. If you've got a little notebook, that's even better. But I want you to understand how the system does it. And this is how I get my brain to get creative in the mornings. One, I got to go for a walk. And then number two, or get on the bike. And number two is I've got to start doodling. Get your hands moving, get your fingers moving. So right in the middle, you're going to, and I just want you to copy this. So you're going to draw a little circle in the middle, and you're going to call this your main idea. This is the main idea that I have. Then after that, you're going to draw circles around the outside. These are your sub ideas. So the main idea, that could be the date. If you wanted that to be the date, it could be a business, whatever it is. But then you're going to have some sub ideas. And then you're going to have some detailed ideas that are all going to fit with that. And I'm going to show you how that works. And we're going to use your bucket list as an example. And then after that, you can have the detailed list, and then you can even make even smaller things from there. Now, what happens is your brain can say, okay, well, I'm going to go think about my sub idea. Now there's 3 or 4 things that I could think about on my sub idea, but let's go down to the detail of one of them. And then let's even get the sub detail after that. So let's use this as an example. And we're going to use your bucket list. And I love to travel. So what are the wonders of the world that you would like to see? Now, what are the charities that you'd like to help? What are the fun things that you've done with your family and you want to do with your family? What's your house going to look like? And what toys are you going to buy? Cars, things like that. And so this is part of your mind mapping system here. So example, I'm going to use world travel because I love to travel. I've been to 50 countries. I've been around the world. I took my kids a couple of years around the world. We went east and never stopped. I've been this way around the world. I've been that way around the world. And I've been all over the world. And so I want you to imagine if you're financially independent. You don't have to be financially independent. You just have to figure out how to make it happen. Bob Allen's very famous for his quote, good parents give their children good memories. Bad parents give their children bad memories. Your job is to give those you love good memories. So on this one, we're going to use what are the wonders of the world. And I'm going to show you how this little mind mapping works. But I use it for business. I use it for marketing. I use it for everything to get my brain thinking so I can concentrate on the smaller circles. So in this one right here, we're going to say, all right, one of the places you want to go is India and Nepal. Okay, so there's the Taj Mahal. Here's my daughter and I. We're at Kathmandu going to see Mount Everest. We rented an airplane, saw the highest mountain in the world. Plus, I'm into helicopters, so I love renting helicopters. And there is Mount Everest that I took with my camera hanging out the window. This is the tallest mountain in the world. And when you're in an airplane and you're flying at 26,000, 28, 29,000 feet, you're about as high as the tallest mountain in the world. Now, I've got somebody saying the volume's a little bit low. Try turning up your volume right there. And Jake, you just check that out. But anyway, this is a picture of Everest right here. And there we are flying up in the helicopter. There's the base camp of the people that are down there getting ready to go climb this thing. And you can see the massiveness of it when you see these small little tents down there. And again, this is all part of Everest right there. One of the fun things that we did is we met a bunch of these little monks, had a nice chat with them, experiencing things. I took my daughter around the world and I took my two youngest kids around the world. And that's that. Now, the other place you want to go, let's say that you're doing your mind mapping. Well, Tahiti. Well, I love Tahiti. Bob Allen speaks French. He lived in Tahiti for a couple of years as a Christian missionary. And if you're going to go to Tahiti, you need to jump on a cruise ship, or you need to stay in one of these really cool overnight bungalows that's out in the water. Now, you can do this in Maldives, you can do it in all kinds of places, but these are sub details of things that you want to be able to see. And there's Tahiti right there. And of course, there's the things you want to do when you go to Tahiti. And again, there's that helicopter theme. You can see that's back there. It's one of the fun things I like to do. And again, these are all sub details of the things that you want to do. Other places you want to go, the pyramids. I've been that one in the middle. I've been right in the middle of that one, down where the pharaohs were buried in their tombs. There is the mountain in Switzerland. This is the Matterhorn. And of course, Walt Disney's famous for building the Matterhorn at Disneyland. And he got the idea because he traveled all over the world. And what's interesting is the Walt Disney is about 60 years old, but there's been amusement parks that have been around for 130 years. He's not the first one to build an amusement park. He was way late to it, but he did it very differently. He made it very clean and made it very special versus what was going on, which is a bunch of carny rides and stuff like that. Well, the reason I talk about this one here is because he was in Switzerland, saw this mountain, drew it out on a postcard, sent it back to his office in California, and says, build me one of these. And of course, they did that at Disneyland. Italy, if you're going to see the wonder of the world, Italy is definitely something you want to be able to see. And then here's the subgroups. Well, if I'm going to go to Italy, where do I want to go? Well, I want to go to Venice. I want to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Florence, and Rome. And then the subgroup of that is, we'll get into more detail, but here's some of the stuff that we've done. One of the funnest things I've ever done was go on a cruise. I love cruises. I love being able to see sunsets all over the world. There, my wife and I are doing the Titanic thing. Hopefully the boat doesn't sink like it does in Titanic. There we are, Leaning Tower of Pisa. Leaning Tower of Pisa is famous not because it's leaning. There's a lot of leaning towers in Italy. It's famous because that's how Galileo dropped two balls. One a heavy one, or a big one, one a small one, and they dropped at the same speed. So he proved that gravity pulled the same. There's my daughter and niece at the very top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And of course, there we are in Pompeii. This is the city that was covered by molten rock by Mount Vesuvius, and it wasn't the lava that killed them. It was the gas and the ash that killed them. And you can see there's people who were buried just like that. But it's something on your bucket list. You got to go see it. There's Venice, and of course you got to take a gondola ride. You need some cash to be able to go do that because it's not cheap. There's the Rialto Bridge, and we stayed. You can see that reddish building right to the right. That's where we stayed, right next to that building. There's the replica of David, and of course, we need to censor that one. So you can see how we're making this mind map work, and we're using travel as that example. So in Italy, we're thinking Rome. Well, if you're going to go to Rome, you've got to see the Vatican, you got to see the Colosseum. And so there is the Roman Catholic Church. And of course, there's the Colosseum. And so it's wonderful to be able to read and understand what happened in all these places. And there's the Colosseum right there. And the interesting thing about the Colosseum is you can see they've taken the floor out right there, but they had all kinds of rooms underneath there where they brought their animals and people and everybody else that performed in the Colosseum. So here's your question. Where would you like to travel? Now, I'm giving you an idea what I'd like to do. I want you guys to take a second here, and I want you to pull out your paper, get a new clean, fresh paper, and we're going to do this together. So where would you like to travel to? I want you to take a few minutes, and I want you to start writing down where you would like to go, okay? So take a second and go do that. What are some of the places you'd like to see? Now, sometimes you're going to do that by just going online and doing a virtual tour, but I want you to write down some of those things that you want to see and be able to go. Now, this is a picture of Muhammad Yunus. He's the gentleman who started microfinance to teach women and help women start small businesses. And part of what I've been doing over my lifetime is helping women, especially, start small businesses. And he's a wonderful man. I would definitely have you read up on him, Muhammad Yunus. And this is where we're traveling in different places. Here we are in India. And one of the things that we did is that we actually would loan money, or we'd give money to the organization, and the organization would loan money to these women to start small businesses. And then when they started a small business, they'd pay the money back. Then the next person in line would get the loan. And they'd work together as a group of 5 peers, not family. And when they started making a little extra money, what they do? They put their kids in school. They got better nutrition. They increased the quality of the home. And this is something that I've been doing for decades. I've been involved in this for decades. But that was a pretty amazing thing for us to be able to see. And of course, here's pictures of my daughter and I with a bunch of kids in India. We've raised a lot of money to help people do this and to start these small businesses. That's my good friend, Mike Murray. And part of our events, we used to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to help people all over the world. So this is a fun one that I like. Here's a great story about my little friend right here. He did this, what we call the Christmas Coalition. JJ Bright is his name. And they did some investing when they got started. And he took some of that extra money and he created what he called the Christmas Coalition, and they raised money and they bought bikes for all these kids so that they could have a bike for Christmas. So amazing, step number 3, you got to give back. And this is one of the great things that he did. And I think he bought like 100 bikes one year and then 200 bikes. On your bucket list, hopefully you can get to someplace like Disneyland. My kids love Disneyland. My special needs kids love Disneyland. And there we are taking my special needs kids to Disneyland. These are all special needs kids we took with their family, with their parent and a peer tutor. And we spent the day at Disney. Pretty amazing time there. And I'm showing you these to get you inspired. So all these are special needs children that we took all there, plus a peer tutor. Pretty amazing, some of this crazy stuff that we've done. All right, now on your bucket list, you're also going to draw another circle for your family. What are the things that you want to do with your family? Fishing. There we are, fishing right there. That's one of my circles, was to have experiences, life experiences, and not so much things, but experiences. And actually, that's what we caught using that little fish right there as bait. And that's an experience that we'll never forget. And there we are, just seeing these whales right there in the inlet. There's with my dad. We spent the time with my dad. My dad's no longer with us, so you got to do things while you can. You got to do it now. You never know when you're going to be checking out and going to your next place. Traveling for me, here's New York. seeing stuff. My daughter absolutely loves the theater, so we took her to some of these great places. Like she loved to see Wicked, so I got her in to see a New York play in New York. And then fun things that you want to do with your children. Your children are going to grow up and they're going to leave you. So you better spend some time with them. If I have any regrets, it's probably because I've spent too much time trying to build the finances for the family and not spending as much time being with the kids. But we did a lot of we did a lot of things with it. Here's my special needs son that just absolutely loves Disney. And this is my mom and dad and my wife's mom and dad. And we did a big event. And I was so tired after that event that I rented scooters for us for Epcot. We took scooters all over the day because I didn't want to walk the thing. There's the Olympics that we did in Salt Lake City. This is on a bucket list. You need to, I'm only showing you this to give you some ideas of things that I love to do, that I wanted to be able to do. And these are experiences that you won't have too many times. You got to take advantage of it. Your home, what's your home going to look like? I remember writing this all out and designing it and then putting it in my drawer and then pulling it out and looking at it every once in a while. I used to even put my goals on the ceiling so I could get very focused. Every morning I'd see them, every night I'd see them, and these are what I'm going to go do. And, here's some of the homes. Here's the autos. There's Mark Victor Hansen right there, the guy from Chicken Soup for the Soul. And for my birthday, a whole bunch of my friends got together and they bought this car from me. It's a Ferrari. And my brother, Philip, restored it for me. And he did the restoration on it. And anyway, these are just toys. These are toys of things that you can talk about. Okay, so that's really this piece right here, which is kind of your bucket list. So all of you should have that on your bucket list right now, things that you want to be able to go do. So on your bucket list, the mind mapping, the system, the way it works is very simple. The idea is to get a central idea, and then what are the 3 or 4 offshoots of that, and then what are the offshoots of that, and what are the offshoots of that. And sometimes you'll take those offshoots and you'll pull out a new clean piece of paper. Your brain and your mind can only really concentrate on something that's in front of you. And if you're dealing with stuff that you have to juggle, just write it down. Hey, it's written down, it's over here. The other thing is that you have to learn how to shut your brain off. I used to run pretty crazy when I was running these big companies that I created. And my deal with my brain is, hey, I'm going to shut it all down at about 6 o'clock. And then I'm going to put it in the back of my head. I'm going to put it in my subconscious, and I'm going to let my brain work on it all night. I'm not going to think about it. It's going to be in my subconscious. It's going to be in my other part of my brain. And then in the morning when I wake up, I'm going to start walking. I'm going to go, for me, it's walking. If I can go walk, I can get my brain to work and I can start coming up with these ideas. They all come back up to the top. So that's what works for me. And then I would figure out what I've got to do for the day using that mind map. Here's my world. Here's the four things I got to do. Inside this, and I've got to do this, this, and this. Inside that one, I got to do this, this, and this. And that works better for me than just a pure to-do list, because a to-do list is all, put together. I will build out the mind map, and then I will build a to-do list from there. So that's kind of the system that I've used to be able to come up with all these crazy ideas and pull off all these wonderful things that we've done. And all kind of comes back to what's on your bucket list. And the most important thing is, why are you doing this? And right now, why are you in this class? I mean, seriously. I mean, it's like 9:30 at night in some places of the world. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The sun's just barely coming up where I live. Why are you doing it? And if you can't answer that, then you should be doing something else. But more importantly, why are you doing it, and who's it going to affect? How's it going to affect them? How's it going to make them and help them have a better life? My kids have had a better life because I was able to do the things I needed to do to help them. But the most important thing you can do is to help your kids is by teaching them. And that's one of the hardest things to do. And so that's why in this next section, I'm going to show you this brand new book that we've created into a flip chart. It's an 8x10 book that you can download and print. You can order it through Amazon for our cost on it. And I'm going to teach you how to be able to manage, how to teach your kids with a flip chart. because everything will be right in front of you, and they'll make it very, very simple, because some of you want to do this on your own. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back. We're going to be talking about success and money, how to teach kids, teens, young adults, and adults